All right, our next guest is Dr. Xiao Yuan. Xiao received her PhD in Educational Leadership and Policy in 2021 from Niagara University. Both her MA and BA were in English as a second language ESL education. Her dissertation study was about academic advisors' impacts on international students' sense of belonging to American institutions, and part of the research findings was presented at the Nakata 2021 Annual Conference in Cincinnati. Her research interests include higher education studies, academic advising, international student education, and ESL teaching. She had 10 years of experience teaching English to prospective Chinese international students in international partnership programs in China, and 5 years of experience teaching ESL to international students in the United States higher education. Xiao, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, so welcome again. And I guess let's get started. So right now you currently work at Niagara University. So how would you describe your institution to anyone that might not be familiar with Niagara?
Niagara University is a nice place. It's beautiful, even though it is cold in winter. It's in the western New York, and it's very close to the border to Canada, Ontario. The university has 5 colleges: College of Education, College Business, Nursing, Art and Science, and Hospitality. And I was in College of Education, so I know more about this college.
Oh, nice, nice. Absolutely. And you're in New York. So, I mean, I'm always looking to, at some point, go and visit New York. So maybe I'll stop by Niagara University as well. And so let's talk about your path into higher education. Can you give us a little bit of background?
Sure. I was in China before I came to the United States for the PhD program. In China, I worked as a teacher for about 10 years. At the very beginning, I was a high school teacher in international high school. So I taught English like IELTS. I don't know whether you know that. So it's a similar language testing system, which like TOEFL, and it's a British English testing system. So international students who are planning to go abroad, they will need to take this test. So I worked, as I said, in international high school. So I prepared students for their English language. So by accident, yeah, it's an accident. I got a chance to work in a university in China. And that university has a partnership program with many universities abroad. So I worked for them as a language trainer for 5 years. And I got a chance to study abroad, and it just came. And now I got my PhD. I'm looking for a better path or a better opportunity to work as an opportunity rather than a staff, because I have much interest in doing research.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we're going to talk about some of that research as well in a little bit. Now, at Niagara University, what is your current position? What does that all entail?
At this moment, I'm teaching ESL to international students, which is kind of similar to what I did in China. So I was experienced in doing that. The students I'm teaching are from different countries. Even though we don't have a big population, still we have this ESL program for the students who are not ready. For the language or culture, they're not ready for the academic major. So they will start in this ESL program for a semester or 2. So I teach them different courses such as reading, writing, vocabulary, advanced conversation, and so on.
Yeah, and also one of those is like, is it like academic success strategies as well?
Yes, I
Yeah.
taught academic strategy for one semester, and
Mhm.
covered a lot of aspects, including one aspect was academic advising. Many international students actually didn't know academic advising system of the United States higher education at all. They didn't know that. Oh, really? I could go to advisor. What are they doing? Like,
Mhm.
what can I get from them? So particularly for the ESL students, they have no clue at all.
Yeah, so it's almost that they might feel they're just have to figure it out on their own and didn't realize
Right,
that they have this extra help that's available to them.
exactly. So I spent about 3 hours on that, on teaching that, like showing them what is academic advising, what it is like, what advisors are doing, and the other academic support services on campus. And students
Yeah.
find it very useful.
Good, good. Why I hope it's something that you can continue to teach or expand on because yeah, that's as you know, it's like super important to have that. And then some of the other things with your teacher, you're talking about like the academic writing and the reading and vocabulary. And so, because you were also like providing a tutor and helping students to expand on information that may not have been presented in their class. And I think you also have even assisted with like APA citations and how to paraphrase and summarize. How has that gone?
Yes, that's very important because I had the experience, like personally, when I was an international student for the first semester, the professor asked me to write APA, and I didn't know what is APA. And I started to look into it, and then I found, oh, that is APA. Like for students, like undergraduates or even some graduates, they when they come from another country, they may not, uh, they were not asked to write with AP in APA style, and so some people will say, oh, international students have big problem with plagiarism. One thing I would say is not I can say not all international students they doing it intent like on purpose. Probably they just didn't know how to cite. I had a friend who was in the PhD program, but now she has graduated. She had experienced this trouble, I would say. Like one professor say, "Oh, you had problem with the plagiarism," and she was asked to go to a hearing. It was awful, and she was so scared about it. And then later on, she figured, "Oh, that was what the professor was talking about." So she was totally didn't know what was APA was about, and by accident she was kind of sent into a hearing, but fortunately she figured it out with some extra help, and so that's just a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking like, yeah, if I was in that situation, I would, yeah, what would I do? Who do I go to? Like, I'm thinking I'm doing everything correct, and then I'm being told that it's wrong. So yeah,
Yes.
it can be very nerve wracking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
And then I guess with that, do you feel like as academic advisors or staff at these at institutions, do you feel there's any misconceptions that we might have about international students, generally speaking?
Just one thing I would say is about this plagiarism problem.
Hmm.
Actually, on Nakata Conference this year, another student, not a student, because I was a teacher. I always consider people who are very young, they're student. No, another advisor who attended another session, and in that session, that was a Chinese lady. The girl mentioned to me after the session, they say she was in that room, and one of the attendee mentioned about international students plagiarism, and that person particularly mentioned the Chinese international students, and she was very offended.
Hmm.
So I would say one misconception about international students is plagiarism. They didn't do it on purpose. They just
Mhm.
didn't know it. So it's very important for institutions to provide some writing style tutoring for international students, not just like faculty or staff. Let's say international students have already understand everything.
Mhm.
No, they can't. They don't. So transitional support should be more in details.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that. And yeah, hopefully
Mm.
that anyone listening can hopefully take that and maybe do something at their institution if they don't have anything already in place. Now, you were mentioning the Nakata Conference. Now, most recently you attended the Nakata Conference in Cincinnati in
Yeah.
a couple months ago in October. Um, how was that experience for you?
It was a wonderful experience. To be honest, at the very beginning, when I was accepted for the scholarly paper, I hesitated. I don't know whether I should go. One thing is COVID was bad, and I was not sure if I could go in person and stuff. So another reason is I was not so positive about my dissertation at the very beginning, and I asked my chair, Dr. John Sauter, and he's strongly supported me. Hey, go! Yeah, wonderful. I'm sure you find it very beneficial. He was so positive. I say, okay, I'll go. Yeah, and it ended up very good. And I think if I didn't go, I would regret.
Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, it's like you get accepted for a presentation, and yeah, there's that hesitation for sure. Like, yeah, do I go? Do I not go? I'm glad you went. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend your session. I found out about it afterwards, and I saw on social media and people commenting about how great it was and how much useful information they got from it. And I think that could be great for some of our listeners because you did a scholarly paper session and that title was Advisors Cross Cultural Empathy, the Key to International Students' Sense of Belonging. Can you talk more about that scholarly paper?
Sure. This scholarly paper was part of my PhD dissertation, and yeah, it took me 5 years to complete. The research was quantitative research, so I did a survey to international students across the United States. Um, in this research, I developed a structure equation model. So SAM, say it's in short. So it's a SAM model, and I investigated international students' sense of belonging, and then international students uh, what was that? Advisors cross cultural empathy activities with international students. Whether these activities with advisors influenced international students' sense of belonging. The reason why I did this was that international students like me or many other international students, they are isolated. They're not engaging in a lot of campus activities. For example, some international students I know, they go to class, and after they finish the class, they'll go back to the room. They kind of hardly ever engage in any kind campus activities, and I want to see why. So I was passionate about advising international students and support them. So the research result kind of surprised me. It showed that academic advisors' cultural empathy activities with international students positively mediate the effect of advising satisfaction to students' sense of belonging. However, academic advisor the rapport between advisor and advisee didn't show positive influence. I would say cultural empathy. a big issue, and it just give advisors or give researchers another aspect to see how advising will influence students, particularly in the sense of belonging.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is there anything from the study like that could help advisors to help students with their sense of belonging? Any like tips that came out of that?
Um, the instrument I used for cultural empathy activities was from another scholar, and these instruments include about 7 questions about for advisor and advisee activities. So the questions was like giving some examples, like whether advisors asked the students about the family, about their home, about their home country, about their advising philosophy, and so on. So even though these questions sounds very simple, did your advisor ask you this? Did your advisor ask you this? However, the truth is these questions show students kind of caring. The advisors caring about the students, so so the results they re-explored. Oh, okay, yes, this improves students' sense of belonging. From this, I would say probably advisors would like to think about the activities with international students when advising international students. Did they really ask about their home, ask about the family, ask about their home country, particularly if there is anything bad happened in the home country? For example, the student mentioned one Chinese student who went to, not student, one Chinese advisor who attended my conference session. She said last year when China was having the problem, like in one province, they had flood and they were suffering a lot. And the people who asked about her about that issue left her a deep impression. Says, "Oh, I was cared. People worried or cared about me." So you see, just a little bit, and it could show that empathy to the international students.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, you know, we sometimes have our assumptions and might assume like, no, we don't want to ask a question about their personal life or whatnot. But we can see that, yeah, something so simple as just asking those questions can have such a positive impact. And one of my colleagues had said, you know, one of the best questions that you could ever ask any student is, hey, tell me about how life is going in your world right now.
Yeah,
And that could just open up so much conversation, and a student can feel that they feel comfortable answering those questions. So yeah, definitely great advice with that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then with your with the research that you did, like, I guess how do you decide like what's the best way to do the study? Like, so like, how did you know that this was the best way to study the impacts of advisors' cross-cultural empathy?
This is a very hard question. I don't know what is the best way of doing a study, but I would say for research, we could do either quantitative or qualitative or mixed method. I chose to use quantitative, use data, use a survey because I feel it's easier. Just design the survey and get people participate into it, and then I have my main piece. and then I could analyze the data. So that's the way why I choose this. But I mean, other ways, qualitative, as the other two scholars who was the presenter in scholarly paper on Nakata 2021, and their research were both qualitative. So they did a lot of interviews and stuff. So I would say I cannot answer because I don't know which is the best way, and both ways have its pros and cons. So from regarding to the methods itself, it's just what way the researcher feel more comfortable with. So I was more comfortable with data, with numbers. And I just feel like to do interviews will be too much. So I really admire those people who are doing qualitative. I think in the future I'm going to do some.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you've written quite a few articles. You know, the one that you presented. You know, you recently published one on a comparison of classroom management. You've even done a few on geographic information systems. So let me ask you this based off your experience, because there's probably people that are listening that are interested in doing some sort of scholarly research, but maybe they're really scared to, like, I don't know how to get started. I don't know if am I the one to even do this? Do you have any advice for those that are interested but are just unsure of where to start?
I say passion driven is the best way. Like what you're passionate about, that's the biggest issue. Because doing research sometimes it's very boring and it's very, very time consuming. You may have some ideas and then you start looking into it and you find, oh, the more you need to research. So the very most important thing is what is your interest, what is why you want to do it. So for me, I was interested in doing research about international students, and I find academic advising is something new to international students. So that passion like helped me to continue. Even though my passion was strong, still it took me 5 years. It's hard. And particularly when you do the literature review, and there's so much that has been done there, and the more you read, the more you find, oh, this has been done, oh, this has been done, oh, this has been done too. But the thing is, of course, there are a lot that has not been done. So you're driven on the condition that you're driven by a passion, and then you will be patient. So second, I would say that will be the second point. Be patient. Like, it always takes time to do research. So, like, you find something. I remember when I was taking the course in the PhD program, they were saying, by the time you find most of the articles you are reading are similar, and you are familiar with those people who are doing doing the research in this field, that's the time when you could start writing, not reading. So the first thing, passion. The second thing, patience. The third thing, read, and then stop and write. Got to write. Like, yeah, you know so much by reading and doing the job. Now it's the time you put down the things. And people say the best work is the work done, right? So to write it out, I think that is the most difficult part. Having an idea is important, but write down the idea and make it published, it's another thing.
It's various parts, but I definitely, I mean, that's, I think, really fantastic advice about do something that you're passionate about, but having that patience, because it does take time, and especially with doing a lot of that research and the reading and then getting to the part of writing it. Because I think, me included, it's one where I just want to get it done, but it's a whole process. And I've had to learn to try to enjoy the process and that journey through everything, and not just always look at, okay, I need to get this done, get to the goal. Because this research and the writing, like it's a time commitment.
Yeah. Another suggestion I would say, I would say it again.
Oh, no,
Another suggestion I want to give to advisors is that academic advising, it's a good field for research, and it needs more researchers and investigators. So advisors, you are at the front line, and you know everything about advising. What you need to become a researcher is just have more theory and have the passion of doing it. So it would be easier for advisors to become researchers in advising than to have a researcher from another background.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And yeah, I hope a lot of listeners will, take that to heart, and, will maybe implement that. But yeah, fantastic advice. Thank you again for that. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And as academic advising may be a profession in the future, if it is, are we ready? Are advisors ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we all are.
Yeah.
I definitely, I see us as a profession, and I know that's been like the ongoing conversation, but I think the advice you give really will help push us forward where we need to go. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think a lot of people would agree with you, though. And I want to talk about, with the time we have remaining, like one of the presentations you did also like a few years ago in 2018, you presented at the Region 10 Driving Conference, and you did a presentation on a case study of undecided Chinese international students. And so if I could ask you about that, can you talk about that presentation, and what did you find was the experience of students as they kind of did their academic exploration?
Actually, that was one thing. That was one of my interest for undecided students. On the conference, Nakata Conference, some people were saying that international students are not allowed to be undecided. I was going to David, but I got no chance to ask him yet. I'm not sure if international students are allowed to be undecided or not, but according to the people I interviewed for my study, I interviewed some students from a public university in Western New York, and also some students from a private university. According to their experience, it is allowed to for international students to be undecided. This is something new for international students from China. In China, we never have the chance to be undecided. When we go to college, we decide our major before we go in. Because in different major, even the admission level, like we have national university entrance examination. So for that examination, students will score differently. For some major, even in the same university, say the university I was working was Hunan University, which is top 50 university in China, and the engineering was one of the best. Students who want to go to this major will have to score much higher than those students who go to say chemistry. I'm not sure, but just an example. So when students, they are enrolled in the university, they're accepted by the university, they are not allowed to change the major. So no matter to say like let them be undecided, that's impossible. So when I had got to know this undecided thing for American universities, and I found some international students, they are being undecided. I was curious. So that was the reason why I had that study. And except that presentation, I didn't submit my paper to anywhere yet because it was a quantitative, it was an interview. It's so time consuming. So by now I haven't finished coding and stuff yet.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic interview. I think I've learned a lot, especially like different ways of research and how involved it can be. But especially too, like your advice on, passion and patience, reading and writing. Like, I think that's going to stick with me for a while, and hopefully with listeners as well. But we have run out of time. But if anyone has any questions from listening to this interview and they want to get in touch with you, they have more questions, what's the best way for them to reach you?
They could reach out to me by email or social media. I use Twitter and I also use Facebook. Or I could provide my email address if you could post it online.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can put it in the show notes. And then if you wanted to say what your email address is, and then we can just have it included in here as well.
Oh, okay. My email is Yuan, Y-U-A-N, my last name, Yuan @Niagara.edu.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on.